Witam Państwa serdecznie, Błażej Hrabkowicz, to jest festiwal EnergaCAMERIMAGE w Toruniu, and our guests are director Hiro Murai. Hello.
Nice to meet you.
And cinematographer Larkin Seiple.
Howdy.
Good-humored people. Good. I didn't even start the conversation, you're laughing. So I'm glad. I want to start with your collaboration with Donald Glover. The musical collaboration, Childish Gambino, because you did a couple of videos with him, including Littlefoot, Bigfoot, of course, which is now in the competition. But I want to go back to This Is America, which I think really was, it turned out to be quite an iconic, I think, piece of music, an iconic music video about really America and about state of America. So can you tell me about the process of creating that video, because it's also very sophisticated in terms of staging and all the things going on in the frame, and it must have been really a technical challenge, but also the meaning of this was huge in cultural terms.
Mm-hmm. We shot that in 2018, I want to say.
Yeah.
And we'd been working with Donald for a couple of years already. I think we started shooting videos for him back in like 2012, 2013. So we've been working together for a while. And that video, we were in the middle of shooting our TV show, so it was like a very rushed 2.5 week prep and 2 day shoot, I think. And the way that started is it was very kind of loose, It was Donald playing me the song and saying, I want to be dancing here, and then I pull out a gun and I shoot this guy here, and then I'm going to be dancing again. And what he wanted to do was kind of create that contrast between, kind of the joyous dance and then kind of an immediate violence, So
Sure.
We just kind of extrapolated that concept into a bigger video little by little, And so we just made sure the performance and dancing was extra joyful and kind of, worry-free. And then everything around them is sort of more dire and, you see people running across frame, but you don't know to where, and kind of create this tension and sort of ominous tone in the background. But really, all we were trying to do was just kind of create this tone, this unease, how do you make something that feels really joyous, but kind of dreadful at the same time. It wasn't really meant to be like a manifesto on gun violence or race in America. I mean, it's all in there, but it was, our goal from the start was just to kind of capture this unease of, being on the internet, really, like you're scrolling through Twitter and then you see, African kids doing this like incredible dance 1 minute, and then there's, news items about school shootings and gun violence. So I think...
Or police officer killing.
Or police officers.
A black man, for example.
Yeah. And so it's just, we kind of wanted to capture how kind of collapsed that experience felt being on the internet at that time.
I think that if it was a manifesto, it wouldn't be that powerful, because I think it's the tone you're talking about, this unease, this tension, it's what makes it powerful, and all the themes of violence, gun violence, racism are there, but not in a form of manifesto, but in a form of art. And I think that's what makes it powerful. But in terms of cinematography, Larkin, all these people who are running in the frame, and the dancing part also, I think it has to do also with how the camera moves around Donald Glover and just around him, and showing these different scenes. So what was the challenge here from a cinematographer point of view to actually pull this off?
The biggest challenge, because especially when the video was described to me and presented and you hear the music, you're witnessing all these different events, and Donald's kind of moving through these different scenarios, and it keeps changing and becoming more drastic. And it was really trying to figure out how to view that, which was, what location was it in? And that was our biggest challenge, and we spent what felt like 2 weeks scouting all these different places, trying to figure out where is it absurd to stage this, and where does it feel right or authentic. And we basically looked at these giant void-like buildings or stages or warehouses, and we ended up at this old tire factory. And for me, it was kind of the sign as we walked in, and there's like a massive building, and then there's just one little tiny door, and it felt like it was out of Looney Tunes. And that's like, just the absurdity was just very blunt and visual of the location. And then as we started exploring it, we realized like, oh, this is how we're framing it. It's going to be, it's kind of like an installation piece within that building. And then that started,
That's true, actually. Yeah.
it started answering a lot of the questions of how we're going to go about it. And then the next 2 days, we just went back there with our iPhones, and we would take turns playing Donald or playing another character in it and try to figure out how to move it around that building.
Is there footage of that?
There is
playing
footage.
different
There's
characters.
There's a version of this video that no one will ever see. Where it's us two dancing.
Nice.
Yeah.
You know, and we spent ages just trying to figure out that opening shot. I mean, it's simple, but it's, you know, in the end, it's like hiding Donald behind a pole. But it was like, oh, how does the camera find the guitarist, and how do we come back to the guitarist, and do we swing away? And then visually, I think that, I mean, the most interesting part about it was every shot started small. It's just the guitarist and Donald, and it's like, oh, now let's add in some cars. And then you have those three elements. Then we kept piling up. It was literally just like stone soup. You just kept adding enough until it boiled over, and then we would move on. But yeah, I think the location kind of informs the process.
Yes, that's actually the great song, great video. But also moving to Littlefoot, Bigfoot, the video for Childish Gambino for Donald Glover that is here in the competition. When I watched this video, and I seen it before, but today in the morning I rewatched it just to remind myself. I thought about classic American cinema in terms of lighting and the staging. I thought about film noir, or you know, the American cinema from a classic Hollywood period. And I wanted to ask you if that was a point of reference you consciously had in your mind, or was it an effect of searching for a certain tone, like we talked about with This Is America?
I don't know. It was an interesting process because, you know, this is something that we knew we wanted to do a video set in a juke joint in the 30s. And I think the only frame of reference we have now is through cinema, right? Because there's no real photo records, and, you know, we weren't there. And so I think we were trying to find a tone that felt, you know, I think the video only works if you buy that this is actually happening. You know, it's not living in a heightened music video reality, not entirely anyway. You know, there's a certain level of sort of weight in that room, you know, within the audience. And so we're trying to find a language that felt like cinematic, but also, you know, kind of deadpan and real, you know. And so it was a lot of pushing back and forth between making sure the costumes and the background people looked really authentic, but also, you know, like lighting-wise, we pushed it around a lot on the day.
Lighting-wise, because lighting-wise, I wanted to ask you, because lighting-wise, it's a really interesting video, and I thought a lot of work. I thought to myself, a lot of work. You had to probably put a lot of work into that.
Yeah, it's like, because even referencing it, there wasn't a specific reference for how we wanted it to look. We know we wanted it to feel like from a different time and to represent kind of a mixture of the cinematic images from that time and then some of like the reference photos of those actual locations. And so you get this funny look that comes out of it. It's almost like Donald's in this light that is very much photographed like a movie, but the world around him isn't. It's a bit more sparse, and it's not, you know, directly lit. It's more lit with practicals, and it's something that kind of evolved as we shot it. But even as he moves around the set, his key light follows him. And it's not like it actively follows him, but he is still entertaining people throughout the whole video, and the lighting is kind of this entertainment style of light. And then the people that are watching, you know, the audience is very, very much stuck in a more grounded look. It's still something that is elevated, but it's playing. It was trying to play a couple different tones. We didn't even really talk about that, though. It's something that naturally just started happening because I think of the lighting. I was trying to match how presentational he was. in the video, and then the audience who literally just doesn't react for the majority of it.
Yeah.
I think the starkness of that was kind of implied what their lighting should be.
Yeah, he's like a comedian who's bombing, yeah?
Yes, big bomb.
Especially in the beginning.
Yeah.
Especially in the beginning. But also there's a feature cameo by Young Nudie in the song, and it's really interesting in the song that when you have a feature cameo, usually it's sort of they try to seamlessly fit that cameo into the song, so it's, you know, seamless. And in this song, he just crashes into it, and the song completely changes, which I think is a great idea. And you matched it also in your video.
Yeah.
The music video, your video completely changes when he appears. So tell me more about that idea. Because you had to match it visually, yeah?
Yeah, it's funny. The song is actually a remix. So there's an original version of that song where Young Nudie's not in the song at all. And so when Donald gave us the remix, it was so disruptive. You know, it was just like such a different song that there's no way we could have cut back into that same room with Young Nudie. It just felt like it needed to be a new idea. And there's something about making a video that takes place in a single location that felt like it was begging for some kind of reveal or context, you know, and there was something just, I don't know, visually fun to us about having like a snow globe moment where you cut out and you're kind of seeing that the world you were inside is this big.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just kind of like a whimsical idea that we had last minute, to be totally honest. I mean, that's the thing about most of these videos, you know, it's even if it feels very calculated and meticulous, a lot of it is sort of in the moment inspiration and kind of us stumbling and finding it out as we make it.
I want to also talk to you about your filmmaking credentials, so to speak. Larkin, starting with you, because you did, as a cinematographer, of course, Everything Everywhere All at Once with the Daniels. This is a film that is, I think, a very deliberate visual cacophony. That it really, you know, the title is not misleading here. It's everywhere, everything, everywhere, all at once. So, can you tell me a bit about designing the visual look of that film with the directors?
Yeah, I mean, that film, there's a lot of looks to it, and I think because the film is naturally so confusing, a big priority was to make the looks bold, so that when you're watching it, it clicks when they switch to a different world or a universe, and that the visuals inform you very quickly, oh, this is where I am, even if it's a close-up of Michelle or someone, you know kind of where you are off the bat. And that became kind of the memo, which was bold choices, not only from camera and lighting, but from, you know, costumes and wardrobe, makeup, and then visual effects kind of enhanced it more. But my favorite part of it is more of like, specifically the opening of it is trying to ground it visually, in terms of trying to make the lighting not really bold from the top of it, more based on practicals and based on a sense that these are potentially real people in a real place, so that you have somewhere to go throughout the film, and you can you can evolve with the character on their journey as things get heightened. So do the visuals. Yeah, and then also the camera language too starts very, like, we try to focus on doing very small, soft one-ers and very choreographed scenes where the camera doesn't necessarily move as much, and it's more about the blocking with the actors. And then as the movie progresses, you know, the camera starts doing all the work, and you get this sense of wonder and whimsy to these very silly scenarios. Yeah.
Last question to you, Hiro, is I want to ask you about Atlanta. Because another collaboration with Donald Glover, of course. But I think that I said that This Is America became really this iconic piece of art about contemporary America. Maybe Atlanta even more so, with its social, economic, and racial themes that are portrayed there. What, in your view, is the biggest quality of this show, and what did you try to bring into it as a director?
We talk about it a lot because, you know, when we started making the show, none of us had really made a TV show before. It was my first TV gig ever. And so none of us really knew how to make a TV show the correct way, you know.
If there even is a correct way.
Sure. Yeah. Although, I mean, a lot of people will tell you, you know, you should do certain things like have returning sets or not be on location all the time, or, you know, don't try to shoot a short film every episode.
Sure. I understand.
But we didn't know that. And so a lot of the engine of that show came from us being excited to experiment and see how much we can stretch the show. And so what I think is sort of special in hindsight about that show is it was all of us really just kind of learning the boundaries of the show as we were making it. You know, if we wanted it to be something it wasn't, then we just would test it until the seams would start to break, you know. And so I think there's a quality to that show that feels like a little bit effortless, because it felt very sort of like intuitive and natural as we were making it. It was never anything that we were trying to like over plan, I guess. And so my hope is that, you know, it comes off as like sort of just like a sort of a very honest story.
Okay, thank you very much for talking to us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.